Alright, so in this video, I'm going to show my beginning to end on setting up a woven wire fence to hold in future goats. Now, for starting out, I've already mapped out the exact area I want to run this to, so I have a string all the way at the very far end that connects to my neighbor's fence, and I kind of have an idea of where I'm going to be putting my posts as well as all of the T-posts and everything that goes with it. So one of the things I'll start out by mentioning is that in this city, El Dorado, the soil, or at least where we live, is extremely rocky. So I couldn't just get a post hole digger and pull everything out. I ended up actually having to use a 17-pound breaker bar to, or rock breaker as they call it, to help break it all up. Once I started the posts, I had a small section of fence I needed to string along, so I was able to tie off to an H-brace on the existing fence that was there. We actually ran about 400 foot of the woven wire fence all the way down the other side of the property between my property and our neighbors. And once I had that tied off, I was able to use
the idea with this
fence stretcher.
Pins out, lay your wire, so you have one of the middle wires going between all these nails, and hook up some come-alongs to it and pull the fence taut.
Now, for a previous fence, I didn't have this fence stretcher, so what I did was I put a T-post between the wires and then I attached a come-along to it. The issue was that it would damage the woven wire, so you would have a section you would actually lose, where with the fence stretcher, it doesn't damage the wire you're not pulling on. So you'll see here, once I got the nails in place and it's tight to the wire, I can use the come-alongs and just ease the fence over. Once I have it secured, I actually will break some of the middle wires to wrap it around here so it doesn't lose all of its slack. The lawnmower was a great help for moving around all my tools throughout the project as well. And don't mind the messy garage. It's a work in progress. Now I took a break from the other section and I wanted to find out where I'm going to be putting my 4-foot gate, because in this area I plan to have a carport, so I want some access to be able to walk through here to the backyard and vice versa. Continued my string that runs from here to a shorter T-post just off the edge and ran it all the way across to the fence where I tied off to. That way I had a spot to map out for my middle gate, which is a 10-foot wide gate that I'm going to be hooking up to 6-inch wood posts that are 8 foot tall. Ideally, I wanted to get in the ground about 3 feet, but as you can see from all the rock down on the bottom left, it was not easy to get very deep. I believe I maxed out at around 2.5 feet on each hole. And I could have gone further, but I figured 2.5 feet was enough for just hanging this little gate. You'll see it's really, really rocky. Pretty much every time I was trying to dig with the shovel, I'd hit a new rock. And that's pretty much all the soil is right in this one area. Even with T-posts, driving them in, you might get them in 1 foot, and all of a sudden you just hit a rock and you got to pull the T-post back out and move it over 6 inches or a foot and just hope you don't hit another rock. And here there's a little water line you can kind of see running, so I was careful not to nick that at all. And that's exactly where the fence will be eventually. Now I do have Tractor Supply dropping off some supplies, so I wanted to kind of clear out some area while I'm waiting for them to show up, since I don't have any of the posts that I'll need or the cement. Now, once he brought everything here, I at first thought I might have bought too much cement, which I'm glad that I didn't tell him to take anything back, because I think after I put in the 5 posts, I was left with about 3 bags of cement. Now, when I was putting this in, I did put a level of drainage rock at the bottom, roughly 4 to 6 inches. And then as I'm putting in the cement, I'm checking plumb. So just making sure that each side is as plumb as it can be so the post isn't leaning one way or the other. I did also taper the posts inward just a little bit, since I am going to use these to help pull the fence taut. I made a run to another local supplier to get some more T-posts that I was short on while waiting for the cement to dry. Now I've got to drive in my corner post, which you can do a few things. I really wanted to put wood posts in here, build an H-brace, but I found that just digging those last few holes, I didn't want to do that again. So this was another alternative. Now these little locks are really great for giving you a brace on your T-posts. They essentially slide over, lock into place, so you can put your T-post inside of one slot and it will act as like an anchor so that post can't flex. Now I'm still waiting for the 6-inch post to dry, the cement to dry, so I figured might as well start driving in some of these T-posts. I do have a T-post driver, which without this, I don't know I could have done this project as quickly as I did. The ground was so hard that I have a manual T-post driver that my neighbor let me use.
If I'm not currently saying it in the voiceover, T-post pounding in very rocky soil sucks.
So this part was probably the most tedious. You would think it'd be really easy using a machine, but these T-posts really wouldn't drive. Being a 7-foot T-post, I wanted to get them in about 2.5 feet. Some of them were going 2.5 feet, even 3 feet, and then the other ones I was only able to get in about 2 feet. Now this is the opposite side corner post that I'm using. Being that I already dug that hole, I wasn't going to put a T-post there, so I wanted to set this one in place. And same thing, once I've got some cement in the hole and the post is staying pretty straight, I just checked plumb and made my adjustments accordingly. And you can do this a few other ways. I've always liked just mixing the cement inside the actual hole. You could get a mixer, you could put it in a bucket, mix it there and pour it. I've probably poured a few hundred posts, other properties, and this has always worked. Maybe it'll fail in the next 20, 30, 40 years, but for now, this is the way I've done it. Now, while those 3 posts are still curing, I wanted to get these 2 other ones to cure as well. So I decided to start digging the holes, and you'll notice that I have that rock breaker, which is a necessity here.
It's getting there. Hopefully end of the week I'll have some more fencing up and be able to keep animals in, you know.
That was my neighbor 2 doors down, who without them I don't think I would have been able to do this project. He was able to show me, or her husband was able to show me how to pull a fence taut, and it really gave me the, I would say, the courage to want to do this on my own, realizing that it wasn't as hard as it initially looked. So at first I had bought some of these 3-inch posts, and ultimately I just felt they seemed a little dinky, so I did have these 2 extra posts that I was going to use for the H-brace, and decided to put those up here, which it was the same 6-inch post that I'm using on the 10-foot gate. So you'll see that large pile of rocks I've gathered as well. This is exactly why I didn't want to keep on adding more wood posts. Every time you dug a hole, you're just fighting it. So ultimately threw some bags of cement in there and started checking for plumb. Also checking to make sure the measurement.
Starts on Sunday.
Say it now, Carl.
Hello?
Hello? I was checking the measurement to make sure that the gate wasn't going to be in too tight of a spot when I factored in the hinges and ultimately a latch. So I believe this is day 3, just kind of on and off the project. I wanted to get the rest of the T-posts in while the cement was curing, so I wasn't pulling on it too early. You'll see I added this little corner brace to the gate, and this is so when I pull the fence tight against it, it's not going to just make that post lean over endlessly. Now I'm going to unroll the woven wire, and this fabric has the lower section that is a little bit smaller to prevent the animals from crawling under, and as it goes up it gets to be larger holes, so you got to make sure you put that in the right way. So once I had tied this off to that post, I brought the fence stretcher to the opposite end, and this is why I have 2 corners here, is I needed something far enough away to tie onto the initial part of the fence. So
Hey, I want to try. Can I try? Want it?
Yeah, let Cara do the last one.
Okay.
The very bottom one, Cara. You stand in the right spot. Drive under it.
Hey, what the heck, Carl? You took off my shoe.
There you go. Good job. Probably the bad area. Good job. Perfect.
I'm not sure this one's all.
now some might say that the kids are getting in the way or that they might be causing the project to be delayed, and I just find enjoyment with letting them help me out whenever they can. Even if a project takes an extra 15-20 minutes, I know it's going to be a lasting memory for them, knowing that they helped their dad build the fence. So I hope if you've got kids out there, you're letting them help you on your projects as well. Now here is where I tied off that fence. So you'll see this last little section here that's not going to be taut, but I'll show later how I'm able to get it taut in the end. Driving this T-post was impossible. I think I positioned it 3 or 4 different times before finally getting it to drive in about 3 feet. And same process, I put the little wedge in there. Unraveling some more of this fence to start tying it off, and then begin stretching it with the other post. Now this other post already has fence on it, so I felt better about pulling on it. You can see it did give a little bit, but not much. And then tying everything off, just wrapping it around the pole and giving it a few twists. Now for the gate, it was as simple as just measuring out where your hinges are going to be located to make sure it stays off the ground by a few inches. Pre-drill the holes and just grab about a 13/16 or a 3/4 inch wrench, and you can twist those hinges into place. Now packing up all the stuff that's not necessary for this area, and back to the top where I'm doing the small 4-foot gate that'll go under the future carport. So checked level between the hinges, got them set in place before securing it. And then close to the house, I was kind of on the fence about doing this, but I bought some of this hog wire mesh. It looked a little bit better and was a little more secure since I can't really pull it taut in this small of an area. And here was the trickiest part because I wasn't quite sure how to keep goats in for the future, being that there is that grade change. So I had some T-posts left over, pounded them in place, got everything secured here, and just twisted it all up. Made it the best way so that the goats couldn't try to jump over at an angle. And all I'm doing is tying off to the T-posts. I positioned the woven wire in front of the hog mesh so they can't push around it or get behind it. And Cara in the background wanted to clean her old electric Jeep that currently does not run. But with a few parts, we'll get it fixed for her. Now here is another tough section, so there's no way to secure it, and I had a bunch of those rocks that I took out of that hole, so I was able to throw those down to keep goats from pushing through. Now here's this small section where I didn't have any way to stretch it, but there's a little trick that I also found from somebody on YouTube, and if you go through the middle part of the wire, you just give it a little twist, make it like a little bit of a Z, and it will pull some of that slack out of it. They do say that this might reduce the longevity of that part of the fence, but ultimately if it ends up breaking in some sections, I'll just get another piece of fence and tie it in there as well. And after a few twists, it went from being a very loose fence to now there's pretty much no give in it at all. Now between all the T-posts, the goats can push up on it, so you got to make sure to put the T-post clips around the woven wire fence. You can do just 2 clips. Ultimately, I always did 3. This just to show you why. So top and bottom, and then the middle, you can see it's got a lot of play. Probably isn't going to be an issue, but I had a lot of clips left that I decided just to go through and do a middle section as well. And that little tool that I'm using is actually for these clips. So if you typed in on Amazon, woven wire T-post clip tool, it makes your life a lot easier instead of having to twist everything with a pair of pliers or by hand. And I just continued all the way down. Now one of the last steps is setting the actual gate latch. This is a 2-way latch. I could have gotten away with the 1-way because the property goes uphill if the gate were to pull out towards the camera. But if I ever decided to grade that, it's nice to know I could swing the gate open inward or outward. And there were these little adjustment brackets inside there to take up some of the slack, so I had to install those between the posts. Before I tightened everything up, checked plumb one last time, and that's it. Now here's the final product. You'll see some of the T-posts I couldn't drive in all the way. I might decide to lop the top of them. More than likely I'm not going to. It'll just end up working the way that it is. And ultimately there's going to be a carport right next to the house, and all that storage stuff will be in a shed right under that tarp in front of us where there is currently a wood pile. And this is everything. So hopefully this video has helped give you some ideas on building your own fence. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. And thank you for watching.